back to the Point of Order podcast, an inside look at California politics and the state legislature. I'm your host, Assemblyman Josh Hoover. Excited to be back. We took a bit of a break for summer recess, and this is our first episode back in the studio. Excited to be joined again today by Assemblyman Greg Wallis from Assembly District 47. Welcome back to the program, Greg.
Thanks for having me back. Always a pleasure to be on, Josh.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's good. Good to see you again. I know today we're going to move a little quicker, do a little bit of a shorter episode, but how was, I guess we've been off for a month now, not off, actually off, but off of the legislative session. How'd you enjoy the time in your district?
Man, it was hot. It's hot in the desert. I think we're hanging around 115 degrees most of the time.
So crazy.
It's always good to be back in the district. You know, I absolutely love getting to just be out in the community. And even if it is 115 degrees, we were still out there holding town halls, talking to folks, and a lot of excitement about things going on in the world of politics. So I got all sorts of questions.
It was so crazy. Like, I feel like the month that we really slow down is usually in July, because we adjourned like right around 4th of July.
Yeah.
And then we're out of session for about a month. And right when we adjourned, like the world like picked up. Like you had the assassination attempt, you know, President Biden dropped out of the race. I mean, there were all these like huge, like, you know, groundbreaking political stories while we were like on a break.
Absolutely.
And so it certainly felt like a pretty crazy month.
Yeah. Right? Did you get any R&R?
I did. You know, I did a day trip to Santa Cruz, which I think is actually our colleague Gail Pellerin's district. And then I also did a trip over actually last weekend to Pismo Beach, which is our colleague Don Addis's district.
Awesome.
And, so did some beach time.
That's good.
You know, with the kids, and love the Central Coast. Obviously love Santa Cruz too. Actually took my kids for the first time to the mystery spot.
Oh,
up
cool.
in Santa Cruz. I don't know.
Did you get the bumper sticker?
We did. Yeah,
we
got
the
some bumper stickers, and it was they were pretty tripped out by it.
I bet.
So that was pretty fun to see their kind of reaction to that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, it was cool. So it was good. It was good to get some family time. Also went to the California State Fair, which is in Sacramento County, which is not quite my district, but it's right outside my district.
Very cool.
So
how was that?
Biggest fair in the state.
I've never been to that one.
You know what? It's like a lot of your local county fairs on steroids, right?
Okay.
So it's just it's bigger, and it's got you know, some more exhibits and things like that. But ton of fun, and my kids love that. I actually took my whole team over there and got to experience kind of you know, the big state fair. So it was cool.
Very neat.
Yeah, learn a little bit about the state, and actually, funny story. The high-speed rail had an exhibit.
Oh, really? What'd you learn?
Like they had an entire building, and I hate to say it, but it was pretty underwhelming.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I hate to say it actually, because I'm not a big fan of the project, but they built this giant like plywood train that you could like walk through. So it was like a model, but it wasn't really a model. And it was just kind of this giant wooden train. And it was interesting. But it was funny because all the people that were there kind of trying to sell the project, you know, like really talk it up. I felt like they were getting trolled like constantly, like just by the people walking.
Yeah, I was going to say, how was it received by fairgoers?
I did not feel like it was that. I don't know. I mean, the people that I overheard the conversations, you know, a lot of skepticism, a lot of people like, so when's this going to be ready? And, you know, the exhibitor would say something like, I think she said like, you know, where our goal is 2033 for the first like segment, which is still quite a ways away. And if that's the goal, you know, it's probably not going to be 2033, right? So, I
mean, that was on the ballot when I was 18, the first election I could vote in.
I think.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
conceptually, it sounds awesome. I would love to be able to get on high-speed rail and, you know, affordably get around the state that way. I think it'd be cool to see that get built. But
if it was doable,
if it was doable.
And it's funny because they'll always tell you like, you know, they've got high-speed rail in Japan and, you know, Europe, and, you know, it works great. I believe I've actually ridden some of those trains. It actually does work pretty well. But I think, it's going to be pretty hard to make it work in the Central Valley in California and really get the ridership you need to fund it and, make it sustainable. Right. So, but it was kind of interesting to check that out. And I kept wondering, like, how much did they spend on this exhibit? Because it was just like this giant, like, it was pretty funny. So, um, but obviously some big things. I don't know if you had any very brief comments on the assassination attempt. I know for me, uh, I just, I think you tweeted something actually, but I just was so kind of devastated by the state of our politics,
Yeah,
and
I
just
mean,
like the lack of civility, the lack of, um, not seeing our fellow Americans as political rivals, first and foremost, but actual, you know, people who we share in this, American experiment with, right? So,
no, absolutely. I mean, that was very well said. I was, uh, it was sort of in shock
yeah,
watching that
yeah,
unfold, and then, yeah, just I mean, devastated for when something like that happens, a former president, a presidential candidate, really
yeah,
anyone in the political spotlight like that. I mean, it's not an attack on one party or one
right.
person. It's an attack on our country and who we
Completely
are as
agree. Yeah,
Americans. And I think that it's sad that we've gotten to that point. And really, we all can do a better job sort of turning the temperature down when when we talk about policy areas that we disagree on and we use words like fight and basically make our political rivals feel like they're evil for
yep,
having a difference of opinion on a policy solution. I mean,
yeah,
that's just not how it ought to be, right? We should be talking about how we can come together. I'm still convinced that there's so much more that unites us than divides us, and I think that
yeah.
I'd like to see that more reflected in our rhetoric, right? We want to talk about the future. You ever listen to Jelly Roll, country artist?
Yeah, yeah. No, I know Jelly Roll.
So
I mean,
we're
I listened to it when he's like featured on some of the tracks that I've heard, but
Yeah, no, absolutely. He is featured on a lot. He was so we saw him at my wife and I saw him at Stagecoach,
nice.
and really really inspirational guy. And he was talking about sort of his life story, but I'm going to totally butcher this, but he said something to the effect of, "There's a reason that the rear view or let's see, there's a reason that the windshield is larger than the rear view mirror because
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
important or what's in front of you is so much more important than what's behind you."
yeah.
And I feel like I'd like to
It's a good point.
talk more about that in California and the United
Yeah,
States of America. What can we do going
yeah,
forward to create a better future for for our kids and grandkids?
yeah. Totally agree. And the thing is like we're gonna have some pretty intense policy disagreements, right? And that's part of the democratic process. And I think that's like to be expected, and that's actually a good thing. That's how our system operates. But I feel like we have hit a new phase of like hyper partisanship that I think is problematic for us as a whole. In terms of our collective dialogue, it makes it really hard to get things done. It makes it harder to work across the aisle. You and I obviously are both part of the Problem Solvers Caucus,
Hmm.
which is a bipartisan caucus, and I love going to those meetings because I really feel like they highlight what can be in terms of a group of people from different sides of the political spectrum, but that can find common ground. And I think it makes it harder to do that when you're living in this age of like hyper partisanship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
So
mean, the incentives backwards, right? When
sure.
you've got politicians out there looking to get their message out, and whether it's social media or
Oh,
television's
for
looking to
sure.
amplify sort of the
Yeah.
the most clickbaity voices rather
You're
than
rewarded for that. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. In today's media kind of climate, right? The 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Well, we've got we're recording this on a Tuesday. We just came back yesterday for our first, obviously day back in session yesterday. How'd that make you feel, by the way, being back in the Capitol?
Actually, I was excited to be back. Now, my wife's up here with me this week, so
Nice.
always enjoy when she can be up here. They had her seated next to me on the floor, but it was good seeing everybody. And we've got a month left, and I think there's some a lot of policy work left to be done.
For
So
sure. Yeah. No, yeah, lots going on, lots coming down. I think I read something today, like 1,300 bills left to debate, which is crazy. A lot of those will die probably in appropriations in the next couple weeks, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely a lot still to complete, and we have to be done by August 31st. So it's going to be kind of a sprint to the finish. I know one of the big things that we're going to be talking about is probably the remaining retail theft bills, right? Those are still out there.
Yep.
So that's going to be really interesting. I mean, prior to the break, I think we talked with a few on the podcast a few times about all of the shenanigans that went on with what is now, I guess, Proposition 36, a new, initiative to reform Proposition 47 from a few years ago that reduced penalties on retail theft, as well as a number of other things. Those bills, there's still a package of legislative bills that I think without some of the shenanigans that were going on, I would still support, that try to get after organized retail theft. But now we're hearing from some folks on the left that they don't even like them as is right now. So we'll see if those come up and if the speaker decides to bring those back. But I don't think it could hurt, as a
Yeah,
complementary measure.
absolutely.
So
They go hand in hand, right? I mean, the
yeah,
legislature's got some responsibility here to
sure,
be able to, address organized retail theft. But
yeah,
obviously, I mean, we can't get to the root of the cause without reforming Prop 47.
of
And
course,
so
yeah.
Proposition 36 being on the ballot's a great thing. And that's something that, I plan on talking about a lot over the next few months.
Oh, for
And
sure. Yeah.
been hearing a lot about it from voters back home and my
Yep.
constituents. So, I do think they are complementary, like you said, and hopefully we can put together a coalition to see those bills continue to move forward. I mean, they've removed all the poison pill language.
Yeah,
So
poison pill language is out. The competing ballot initiative is dead, right? That's gone.
yeah,
So I mean, I think honestly for the voters, this worked out really well. I was pretty frustrated with all the games that were being played on a citizens initiative that voters obviously want to see have the opportunity to vote on. I think it worked out pretty well from the standpoint of voters will get that opportunity in November and to actually reform, to your point, the root cause of a lot of these challenges. So, but yeah, that'll be interesting to watch as well. On that topic, actually, I don't know if you saw there was an audit that the state auditor put out over the break on Prop 47, specifically actually in like Riverside and San Bernardino counties. I think it was that was kind of where they looked at it, but essentially it found that repeat offenders are more likely to reoffend, and they recommended that the legislature should have increased penalties on those who kind of repeatedly violate the law, which we've tried to do a number of times. I think our caucus has proposed that a few times now, where that kind of that regular, like if you've committed a misdemeanor 3 times or 4 times, like you should actually be charged with a higher penalty at that point because you've shown that you're going to keep offending, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, pretty interesting coming from a state auditor who's not, obviously partisan, but is, selected by the legislature. Pretty clear directions from them.
yeah. I mean, my sheriffs both in Riverside and San Bernardino County regularly talk about how it's a small minority of people commit an overwhelming majority of
Yep.
of the crime in our
Yeah.
in our counties, and I imagine throughout the state. And you need a carrot and a stick approach to this, right? Obviously, you want to make sure that folks are being rehabilitated. They've got the
Yeah.
skills to be able to turn away from a life of crime and become successful citizens. And I think everybody wants that. I think we all agree with that. But when there's no penalty for committing these crimes, what's the incentive, right? What's
Yep.
the incentive
Yep.
to change that behavior?
For sure.
I think we've just swung the pendulum too far in the wrong direction on that, and people are really taking advantage of probably just of our good nature and us wanting to say, how can we
Yeah.
help you? I go, well, these guys are suckers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you take away accountability, right, for crime, I think you're going to see more crime, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now. To your point, you talk to any of the law enforcement officers in your own communities. I mean, they're all saying that. I think the really good thing about this initiative too, the Prop 36, that's potentially going to change is it's going to restore, to your point, that carrot and stick approach. where it's going to allow people that commit crimes to choose between penalties and treatment. And I think, prior to Prop 47, we had that with our drug court system.
Yep.
We had this system where, maybe you committed a crime, but there was a diversion opportunity to say, you can either go serve your sentence and go to prison, or you can go into a rehab program and actually get your life back on track. The moment Prop 47 passed, that went away because there's no stick.
Right. Absolutely. You got rid of the stick.
And that stick is really important. And I think, even people that have reformed their own lives, a lot of them would tell you that I needed that stick.
I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and volunteered that.
Yes,
right? I mean, hey, I've got a family, a house, and
Yep.
a good paying job. I would have never straightened my life out if I wasn't looking at sitting in a cell. So
yeah, I mean, and it's just sometimes in life, like you need that wake up call.
Yeah.
And I think taking that away is not only is it not good for crime, but it's not good for the actual individual, right?
yeah, there's no compassion there to
like-
allow someone to continue down that path.
Exactly. So pretty incredible. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't. Did you see the governor also signed an executive order over the break on homeless encampments? I don't know if you heard about that one, but essentially it actually got way overhyped, if I'm being honest, in the media. Like if you just read the headlines, I think there was like a Fox News headline that said, Governor Newsom orders homeless encampments across the state torn down. And like, that's not what the executive order did at all. If you actually read it, it basically was an order that said it directed state agencies on state lands to develop plans to take down encampments like on state lands. So it's actually pretty limited, but it did also encourage the same kind of approach at the local level. We're seeing actually a lot of enforcement now picking up in San Francisco. Even London Breed has come out and basically announced this new system for clearing homeless encampments. And I think it's mostly aimed at the people that refuse help, right? Because that is always the hard part, right? Is you have a population that there are services available, but a lot of times says, we don't want those services. So in the case where you say, I don't want shelter, I don't want housing, I don't want treatment, then, you would, essentially, you're not going to be allowed to stay in the same place, right? In the encampment. So I didn't know if you saw that and what your thoughts are on kind of this newfound, I guess, enforcement mentality that Newsom and Breed are embracing all of a sudden.
Look, I appreciate. I saw the executive order and appreciate that we're starting to move in the right direction. I know you've been a leader on this. We've been beating the drum on this since we've been since before we've been in the legislature, and it's nice to see some semblance of action being taken. Back to what we were talking about with Prop 47, that it's not compassionate to allow people to live in these encampments on the street. And I mean, was it Michael Schellenberger who came out and spoke to us? And he's done a lot of work. I've seen some of his videos out in these encampments. These bad things are going on there, right? And so when you have folks who are refusing to get the help that's being offered, again, I think you do need a little bit more of that stick side of things. But it's obviously a problem. It's top of every Californian's mind. There's not a city in the state that I know of that you can go to and not see an encampment there. Even throughout my district, it's no longer just Los Angeles, San Francisco. Some of these big metropolitan areas, you're seeing them spread out throughout the state. And we do need to do something about it. So I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that this is more than just a press release and lip service out of the administration. I'll leave it at that.
We'll see. I mean, it's interesting that it did get overhyped because I think a lot of the governor's announcements are a little more gentle than they come off in the articles. Yeah. Right. So I don't see this as moving the needle in a huge way, but I think actually what London Breed is doing is even a bigger story. And some of my cities actually have announced new enforcement since the Supreme Court decision that overturned that Boise versus Martin decision that said, essentially you can't clear encampments without housing for every single individual, even if those people are, not willing to take the housing. Right. So I think that was a really problematic federal decision that got overturned by the Supreme Court with the Grants Pass case. And I think we are seeing cities and counties across the state kind of now really take advantage of that, which again, is good to see. I think, to your point, it's good to see the governor talking about it, embracing it. But we'll see what the results are. Speaking of, I'm kind of jumping around here, so I'll just, but speaking of, homelessness, I mean, obviously, I think there's a lot of factors with homelessness where you've got substance abuse, mental health, concerns, but the cost of housing in California, I mean, is insane as well. And while I don't think that's the only factor that pushes people into homelessness, it certainly is true that housing has gotten ridiculously out of control in terms of how much it costs. So this new study came out. I don't know if you saw it, but it was 1 in 4 Californians aged 24 to 35 live with their parents. Young Californians are 40% more likely to live with their parents than the U.S. average. And that kind of coincides, I guess, with obviously rents are insanely high.
Mm-hmm.
But just a month ago, we saw the realtors came out with their report that said for the first time in history, the median price of a home in California is $900,000, which is insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those two things combined, I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts, but I mean, it's hard to be a young person and actually achieve that California dream, I think, right now in California.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the main reason I ran for office. I think that's something we need to address. Too many of my family members, friends are leaving the state. And gosh, I don't know anyone who wants to leave California, but cost of living's through the roof here. When you look at housing costs and energy costs. I saw that study that 1 in 4 Californians aged 24 to 35 are living with their parents. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, and, there's a lot of factors, I think, that contribute there. Obviously, we haven't built enough housing in this state. We continue to miss the mark. What are we, about 100,000 units short every month or something of our goal? And then, you couple that with interest rates. I mean, I've got a 3% interest rate on my house right now. I can't afford to sell it. And you've got a lot of Californians that are going to be, well, why would I sell? So you've got, a big constraint on supply on the market there as well. It's a huge problem. We've got to address it. I know the legislature's taken some steps to help encourage, more housing to be built.
I think we're nibbling around the edges. But I would like to see more from the governor and from the legislature on that for sure. And really, it is. I think a lot of it is a supply issue. I think the interest rate issue is a challenge, right? Because we don't control that necessarily. Right. This week, the economy is starting to fall apart a bit based off of like some bad job numbers. The global economy even is really taking a big hit in the last couple of days. We'll see what happens with that long term, but that could, I guess, bring interest rates down a little bit potentially, which I think would help on some of this. I mean, even like, just the difference between like an 8% and a 6% is pretty major, right?
Mm-hmm. No, it really is.
It's crazy when you look at the numbers of your mortgage or so it's I think that'll be interesting to watch. But we got to do more to bring down the cost of living in California. I want my kids to be able to live here one day, right? Like absolutely. I want them to be able to stay here. And I certainly don't have enough bedrooms in my house to have them live with me for the rest of their lives, right? 24 to 35, like that's, well, you're in that bracket.
I'm 34.
I was gonna say we both are, but I'm like 36. But we're like, I don't know, I can't even imagine that, right? Like at this point. And so the idea that when my kids get to the that age range, that they would have to like make that decision, I just like. I want them to be able to go out on their own and actually live their life, right? So that's going to be really interesting. You also brought up energy. I think you're on the utilities committee, so I don't know if you've really been following this all. This will be the last one because I know we got to shut it down here. But there's this new plan that is supposedly being proposed in the next few weeks by the governor, I believe, or by the legislature, on essentially reducing energy costs. I don't know if you've heard any wind of this yet, just being on the utilities committee. But that should be essentially it's a proposal developed by the Boston Consulting Group, um, essentially to help us meet our carbon neutrality goals by 2045, essentially by making it easier to streamline projects essentially across the board. And what I liked about this is it actually included things like carbon capture, natural gas, and hydrogen,
Yeah.
which a lot of times in California have been like, we can't use that to help, meet our carbon neutrality goals. I think we need all hands on deck, all technologies on deck, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to meet these goals, otherwise it's not going to happen, right? So I don't know. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on. I don't have a lot of details on it yet.
No, I don't think we've heard a whole lot about it, just rumblings. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We need to be technology neutral or agnostic when we're trying to meet these goals if we're going to keep costs down. And
yeah,
I mean, this is a little bit of an experiment. Looking at, California's leading in this area. And my concern is that if we can't make energy affordable and reliable while we're going down this path, I don't see how we get other people to adopt, whether it's other states or the rest of the world. And at that point, if we're not making this more of a global effort, what's the point? Because California is not able to control.
Yeah, California is a drop in the bucket, right, on the environment. And, you talk about, having goals, that's great. But my big concern with all of these, right, I think everyone cares about the environment, right? But having goals that are unreasonable or hamstringing yourself with policies where you can only use certain technologies, right? Not only are you going to probably fail to meet those goals and show the world that this can be done, but you're also going to increase costs substantially on everyday Californians, the very people that we're talking about are having such a hard time affording life in California, right? And so that's always my big concern. Is the only way all of this is successful is if you, to your point, show the world that you can do it without ruining your economy and without making it too expensive to live in your state. And if you don't do that, then I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we need to be careful of is, government's not moving as fast as the private sector, and we don't necessarily know what the future holds. And as far as technological advancements, and we talk about things like nuclear fission potentially being an option,
for sure.
and that potentially being viable in 10 years. We have nothing in the regulatory framework that accounts for that.
Yeah, we're not prepared.
And that could be a game changer. So when we're sitting here trying to pick winners and losers based on the technology available today, that's problematic, right? We need to, again, say this is where we want to go and then empower the market to meet those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. As I always like to say, let's incentivize the clean energy future, but let's not mandate it. Because I think when you mandate it, government putting their hand in it really, I think, hampers innovation and potentially a better solution. So we'll close it off there for today. Any final thoughts as we kick into the final month of session?
Just good to be back. Good to see you again, and looking forward to a crazy busy month here.
It's going to be a fun one. I mean, I think right now they have us going all the way through the first Saturday of Labor Day weekend. So I'm hoping that we can all rally together and end on Friday.
I share that.
But we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. We're going to be back with new podcast episodes this whole month before we adjourn for the year. If you've got ideas for future shows, you can send them to pointoforderpod@gmail.com. Obviously, listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and watch, subscribe, or follow on YouTube, X, Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Point of Order Pod. You can follow today's hosts on X, myself at Joshua_Hoover, and Greg at Greg R. Wallis, I believe is your X handle, and as well as I think at ASM Wallis as well, right?
Yep.
You've got a couple different X accounts. I've given up calling it Twitter, by the way, officially.
I was going to comment on that.
I know.
I was actually impressed.
Yeah, I've just finally given in because they changed the web link to just X now. So the actual website is x.com or whatever. So I'm like, all right, I think it's done. I think it's over.
Fully adopted.
So we're gonna go all in on that. But
I don't know that I'm gonna join you on that. It's still Twitter.
I know it's
might
too
be
weird. It's
forever in my
terrible.
mind.
The funny thing is, I still call them tweets because it seems weird to call them anything else, right?
What else would you call them?
Oh, I tweeted, or this is
It's
my
a
tweet.
post on X.
Yeah, but it's a post. Just sounds like anything else, right? So I'm like, all right.
I picture Facebook when you say that.
Exactly. But Greg, thanks again for coming out today, and good luck with end of session.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be on, and
absolutely
looking forward to the next month.
See you again soon.